President-elect Donald Trump has promised a mass deportation of undocumented immigrants. How the incoming Trump administration would deport anywhere close to the 11 million people estimated to be undocumented in the country is still unclear. For the undocumented people living in this country now, uncertainty about the future is nothing new. A years-long backlog of cases in our immigration courts means people wait years to find out whether they'll be able to stay here permanently. Today, we look at how the crisis in the immigration courts impacts our local community.
Jose says his journey to an American life these last 5 years has been full of difficult moments. The Honduran citizen, who now lives in Lehigh Acres, asked that we not reveal his identity because he's a victim of domestic violence.
I sleep one night in my car because I don't have any family in here. And I sleep in my car. I don't have any money to rent a hotel or to buy a food.
Jose made the journey to the U.S. via Mexico, crossing the Rio Grande with the financial help of his ex-partner, a U.S. resident, who he says he loved. He dreamed of building a family together in Southwest Florida and finding success.
I want to make my own business.
Jose says he came to the U.S. for several reasons. He dreams of bringing his parents, too. He wants to protect them from the ongoing threat of gangs who demand extortion money from them.
If you don't pay it, they can kill you. They can kill you or your family. Or they can rob you.
His attorney, Ricardo Scarrett, says it's likely Jose will be able to legally remain in this country because his case is solid. There's evidence proving he was physically abused by his ex-partner in the U.S., but figuring out how to survive while Jose waits for a permit so he can legally work here isn't easy.
The person has been about 3 years without a work permit. How does the Immigration Service expect a person to survive for 3 years without working in the United States?
Jose, like millions of others, works illegally. Now in an office, before that on a construction site, at a grocery store, at a taco truck, as well as cleaning homes. He admits he feels guilty.
I don't like it, but I have to work because I have to pay my bills.
They have to subsist. Financially and economically, they have to eat.
And because of the immigration court backlog, many of Scarrett's clients will not only wait for a work permit, they'll also be on hold for 4 years or more for a final ruling on their case.
They may get a no, right?
Oh, they may get a no. After 10 years of being here with a work permit, and then the government expects that person to leave after being here. I mean, justice has to be fast and economically feasible. I mean, if the cases are taking too long,
So
asylum cases should be resolved within a year. They shouldn't be pending like 10 years like this.
Jose hopes his answer will be the one he is waiting for so he can build the life he's been dreaming of.
I hope one day, keep studying and finally have my job.
joining me now is Judge Denise Slavin, an immigration judge for 25 years now, currently retired, but has been called out of retirement previously to help with the backlog of immigration cases. Judge Slavin, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So, Judge Slavin, let's start with this. Help us to understand how bad this backlog of cases really is.
It's like a tsunami. It is horrible. We have 3.7 million cases pending in the immigration court at this time. And that means we have about 69 courts nationwide. That means we have over 4,800 cases per judge on average. Some have much more than that. Some have fewer, but it's just a crushing caseload.
I know you were a judge in Miami. How does that compare to, let's say, 20 years ago?
20 years ago, judges were complaining if they had 900 cases on their docket. And at that time, our supervisor was saying, I know the ideal is 500 to 600. So this is just totally out of proportion to that. It's incredible.
So for folks who say, I don't employ anyone who's undocumented, I don't have a relative who's undocumented, why should we care about this issue?
You should care about this issue because the backlog and some of the other current political issues cause inefficiencies and delays in the court. And The more delays there are in the court, the longer people stay here, and the longer they become part of our society and part of our network. And I can tell you, when I was hearing cases of people who had been here 5 years or 6 years, I don't know how many times people came into court, countless times, and or came into court or wrote letters to me and said, "You can't deport this guy. You don't understand. He's my neighbor. He's my son's soccer coach or my daughter's soccer coach, or he's the youth leader at our church. We have barbecues with him. He's my landscaper. He has an American flag pinned on his truck." They become enmeshed in our society, even though we don't realize it, and we need them desperately. We need them for our economy also.
So we spoke earlier, and you told me that one of the big problems, the causes, is that this process has become politicized. Explain that to us. What does that mean?
Well, the immigration court is unlike regular courts. The courts are set up under our Constitution, and under our Constitution, we have Article 1, which is the legislature, Article 2, which is the executive, and Article 3, which is the court system. Even though we're an immigration court, we are not in that Article 3. We are not independent courts. We are now under the executive, and we're in the Department of Justice. We're in a law enforcement agency. So you have a court and a law enforcement agency. And that means that as the priorities of each administration change, they can change the priorities for the court. So basically, it's like having the prosecutor in a criminal case say, "Judge, we don't want you hearing these cases today. We want you to hear these other cases because they're more important." Um, so it's just not it's totally different structure than the other than regular courts are, and that causes problems with delay and inefficiencies in the court system.
I know you told me that they sent you for a time to the border, to the U.S.-Mexico border. Can you explain? You said that, I guess there were some cases that were prioritized, but in the end, you weren't able to do as many cases as perhaps you had hoped to do or resolve
Well, yeah,
cases.
and that was, and I have to just clarify. I mean, that was a while back, but it is a good example. The priority of that administration was they were going to put benches in the trenches, send judges to the border to hear cases right away, and that was the political commitment they made. Well, the problem was the cases of people who cross over the border aren't ready to be heard right away. The concept of due process is we give people time to get an attorney, time to make their applications, to get witnesses and documents and evidence they need. So what had happened was I was in a docket that had cases ready to be heard right away, and cases that I were bringing back. So I had to cancel for 2 weeks about 100 cases. I went to the border and I only had about 8 cases on the docket for 2 weeks because they just weren't ready.
Right. Judge, how do we fix this?
The main way we can fix this is creating an Article 1 court for the immigration court system. And the Article 1 court basically takes us out of the executive, and makes us a separate court under the legislature. And in that way, we can set priorities according to when cases are ready and how to move them the quickest judicially in accordance with due process, as opposed to constantly shifting our dockets. Every time a new administration comes in, it's not just Republican or Democrat. Every time a new administration comes in, the priorities change and we have to shift our dockets around, and we lose time, and cases that are ready go stale, and cases that aren't ready are pushed up to the front.
What changes do you expect with the Trump administration?
I expect some of those changes. I mean, that they'll probably be shifting priorities, and will be told to cancel cases and reset some. The case law will change, and that's one of the strange things about being in the administration that we are, because the immediate case law can be set by the Board of Immigration Appeals, which is again under that administration, and even the Attorney General. And what happened last time, when case law changes back and forth like this, what causes more appeals and more remands, and we have to do more do-overs of cases. So that again is inefficient and causes delays.
And if I can end on this, you told me you believe in more legal pathways for folks to get here legally. Why?
That's personally not my belief. In terms of addressing the border crisis, generally, I would say it's 3 things. Fix the immigration court, but there's these push and pull factors. There's factors that pull people to come into the United States, and one is employment. But we need people here. I think I told you, it's a not so well-known secret that $13 billion are paid into the Social Security system by people who are working here without authorization under false Social Security numbers. So they can never get that money back. And it's supporting the Social Security Administration. In 2034, the administration is Social Security is predicted that they'll be depleted. With that, if we take these funds away, it's going to happen a lot quicker. So if we had a legal program where people can contribute, and Social Security depends on growing that. Also, our economy, sales taxes, the taxes that people pay, all of these things help. And the jobs that we need people to work in the hotel, the construction industry, and agriculture. So if we create legal pathways to do that, then we can help our economy thrive and take away some of the factors pushing people to come here illegally.
Judge Slavin, we are grateful for your time. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.